Good afternoon, everybody. We'll be starting very shortly. We're just waiting for a few people to trickle in. We've had a lot of people getting tickets for this event, so we're expecting quite a few people. So just bear with us as we allow people to join. But I hope you're all very well on this Monday and excited about this webinar. We're certainly very excited in the education team, and we've got a brilliant event with some fantastic speakers. So I think you're going to find it extremely useful use of your time on this Monday afternoon, and are going to learn lots from it, and are also going to be able to access or find out how to get access to the updated toolkits. So we'll just give another moment and then we will get started. So settle in, make yourself comfortable, grab a cuppa, whatever you need to do, and we'll start very shortly. Toolkit update webinar. We're super excited about this event this afternoon and great to see you all here. Let us find out what we are going to be doing this afternoon. We've got quite a packed agenda to get through, so hopefully you'll find this very useful and entertaining as well, we hope. So first and foremost, in case you are new to carbon literacy at all, we will be doing a short introduction to carbon literacy and what that looks like in the further and higher education sector. We'll then be going into the main part of this afternoon's event, which is looking at the toolkit updates. So we'll be hearing from our guest speakers about what's been updated in both the MMU and in the NTU toolkits. There'll be then next steps and what you need to do to access the toolkit. And of course, we'll be finishing with some Q&A. Bit of housekeeping. This is a webinar, so your microphones are muted and your camera is switched off as well. And the session is being recorded. However, that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. You are free to use, and we encourage you to use the chat box and the Q&A function so that if you've got questions throughout, we can answer those, and you can also chat to each other throughout the session as well using that. From a carbon literacy point of view, there are 3 people facilitating the session who you'll meet today. My name is Sarah Davis and I am the Public Sector Advocacy Lead, which basically means I lead the public sector teams. So that's education, local authorities, civil service and healthcare. We're also joined by Lydia Gaskell, who is the Further and Higher Education Coordinator, and Sojan Johnny, who is the Housing and Built Environment Coordinator. But he's also been giving us lots of support recently on further and higher education because we've been very, very busy. So you'll get to meet the 3 of us throughout the session today. And thank you very much to the team for everything that you've done in pulling this event together. We are also joined by some guest speakers as promised. We are joined by Rachel Dunk, and I hope I'm going to get this name right, but it is Mariana Poboreshkaya. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about both of these speakers. So Rachel Dunk is a Professor of Climate and Carbon Management Education at Manchester Metropolitan University. She is also a carbon literacy consultant and leads the development of Manchester Met award-winning Further and Higher Education Toolkit Suite. She's also a recipient of the Carbon Literacies Project Individual Catalyst Award. Mariana is an Associate Professor of Politics and International Relations at Nottingham Trent University, where she specialises in environmental communication and climate government. Through her involvement with the UN Prime Working Group on Climate Change and Environment, she has co-designed and delivered carbon literacy trainings for scholars and educators worldwide. Could we go to the next slide, please, Fiona? whilst we'll be hearing about what's been updated in the toolkits, we also wanted to hear from people who have been using the toolkits throughout their institutions. So we are joined by 3 guest speakers. We're joined by Sigrun, who is a professor, of International Business and Sustainability and Carbon Literacy trainer at Royal Holloway, London, where she plays a leading role in the environmental sustainability strategy. Sigrun introduced carbon literacy to the university and has taken a leading role in helping the university to attain carbon literate educator status. We'll also be joined by Stuart, who holds a PhD in biochemistry, and after spending 9 years advising pharma, biotech, and venture capital companies, he moved into teaching chemistry, and he leads on sustainability and carbon literacy training at Greenhead College. Stuart has played a vital role in helping the college to achieve the Carbon Literate Educator accreditation. And we're also joined by Amy, who is the Sustainability Engagement Coordinator and a carbon literacy trainer at the University of Chester, where she has trained 86 staff and students, helping to bring the university again to carbon literate educator status. So we're going to be hearing from all of these speakers in due course throughout the session. But for now, I'm going to hand over to our further and higher education coordinator, who's going to talk a little bit about carbon literacy and what that looks like in further and higher education. So Lydia, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sarah. And yeah, hi everybody. Great to see you all here today. So for anyone who's just getting started with carbon literacy, you may be asking yourself, what is carbon literacy? So we have a set definition for that, and that is that carbon literacy is a day's worth of climate learning and action. It equips individuals, communities, and organizations with the knowledge, motivation, and skills needed to take meaningful climate action against climate change. So as you can see, it's not just about education, it's all about change and empowering individuals with that. And hopefully through the further and higher education toolkits, we can support you with doing that. So if you could just jump to the next slide, please, Fiona. So a little bit on our reach, we recently reached a massive milestone at carbon literacy, and we've trained over 150,000 citizens across the world, which is massive. So that's, 150,000 people that have been trained as carbon literate. They've gone through the whole carbon literacy training and they've received the certificate. So yeah, you can imagine the impact that that will have. And not only that, we've also reached another milestone recently within the education sector, as we've reached over 30,000 individuals. So that's 30,000 people that have been trained in schools, FE colleges, adult education, universities, not only in the UK, but all over the world. So again, you can see how much of an impact the education sector can have. It's a huge part of carbon literacy and what we do. So we're really grateful for you all for all of the work that you do with delivering carbon literacy training, and thankful that you can all be here today. So next slide, please. So something on our toolkits in further and higher education. And when we say toolkit, what we're talking about is a ready-made carbon literacy pack that you can take. We share the file with you and you can take that and you can start using it right away. So that will have your slides in, it will have trainer guidance, any activities that you need to use. And we have a few of these available for further and higher education. So those are the Manchester Metropolitan University Toolkit, which has been designed for universities and FE colleges, which we'll be hearing a little bit about the updates on later on. Then we also have the Manchester Metropolitan University Carbon Literacy for FHE Leadership course, so designed particularly for those in leadership positions. And then we have the Nottingham Trent University Toolkit, which has been designed for universities. And again, we'll have some updates on that and a little bit of discussion around that. So to get us kicked off with the updates, I'm handing over to Rachel Dunk, who is the author of the Manchester Metropolitan University Toolkits, and will be sharing with us all of the updates and work that's been going on to those toolkits. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you very much, Lydia. I have been having some Zoom technical issues, so if I end up disappearing, I apologise. I will come back as quickly as I can. Fiona, I can no longer see the ability to take over from you. So if you could do next slide for me, please. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you to Lydia and Sarah for inviting me, and to all of you for your interest. And I know we've got some really fantastic users of the toolkit with us today. I'm going to do a whistle-stop overview of the changes that we've made in this third version of our FHE toolkit. Next slide, please. I'm not going to stay on this one. Lydia's already highlighted the different flavors that we have. I am going to run through the changes to the standard student and staff facing training. Wherever it's applicable, they have been followed through into the leaders and the springboard for senior university leaders training. Next slide, please. So a quick reminder of the constraints we place on ourselves, our sort of ethos around the toolkit. We want it to be as accessible as we can possibly make it, and that's in every way. We want to be as responsive to feedback as we can be, by which I don't mean that we've always necessarily got time to write lovely emails back to people, but I mean like reflecting on the feedback and making changes and responding to it where we can. But our big driver is that it's got to stay deliverable in a day, and it's got to stay so that it can be delivered by undergraduate students from any discipline, because that was our key sort of design criteria when we first put the toolkit together. Next slide, please. So a reminder about the basic structure of our training. We've packaged it into 6 modules. The first half of the training is the first 3 modules that focus on understanding the challenge. The second half focus on doing something about it. This time around, we have not changed the overall structure of the training or the number, name, or purpose of any of the activities. However, most activities have been updated in some way. Next slide, please. A couple of other things that we've noticed and tried to address is that the slides seem to often get separated from the guides. So we've now tried to put all of the information from the trainer guides actually into the notes pages of the slides, so that can't happen anymore. The other thing is, over the last year, we, as in the team at MMU, have had lots of opportunities to observe training happening elsewhere. And what we've noticed is that sometimes when there isn't a slide explicitly highlighting the take-home message of an activity, it can get lost. So we've added a few slides in a few places just to make sure that that does not happen, or to try and make sure that that does not happen. Next slide, please. So I'm now going to go very, very quickly. These slides will be shared with you afterwards, so they'll be there as a resource. So this is a whistle-stop tour of where the big changes are by module. So in module 1, climate change basics, there are substantive changes to the climate change, the facts discussion activity. Next slide, please. This is largely to address the fact that it was made back in 2019, and everyone goes, oh, but isn't it old, isn't it dated? Well, it is, but only because the message has got worse. The story arc, the key take-homes from it are still absolutely valid, but we have opted to top and tail it this time around. So there's a new intro, and that's really to make sure that we're building those links to impacts at the UK and local level. Next slide, please. This is the really important bit. This is the new outro. So we've done this as a follow-on presentation. We've called it Climate Change, the Next Chapter. And it's doing 2 critical things. It's filling in that time gap between 2019 and now in terms of the severity of what we're facing. But it's also trying really hard to turn us into that sort of, all right, it is quite scary, but there is hope. So it brings in positive tipping points and highlights those and the important role that we all have to play in trying to bring those forward. Next slide, please. because some people like a lot of details, some people don't, because this is quite technically complicated information. We've provided it in multiple formats to try and suit all comers. So you can pick a 7-minute or a 10-minute video of the one, or you can give the 5 to 7-minute presentation, or we've also provided an extended 10-minute and 25-minute version of the presentation if you want to go into that detail and explore them more. Zoom has just done something funny. Can you still hear me? Yeah, marvellous. Next slide, please. So module 2, we've got data updates across the board and a little bit of new content. Next slide, please. In international footprints and vulnerability, we've added in a slide that helps explain what vulnerability is. That was something just done on the cuff before. Next slide, please. In consumption footprints, we've added an alternative option. Not everyone liked the buses visualization, and there is finally a fantastic and regularly updated data set of consumption footprints. So we've created an alternative activity. Well, it's a short presentation based on that. Next slide, please. We've also updated and expanded the slides on inequities and justice. So we had the original sort of figure from the report on footprint inequities. We've used the publicly available dashboard to update that and present it for the UK. And then we've put in a slide that really highlights the climate justice take-home messages. Next slide, please. In activity 8, which is the footprint of food, again, sort of just to try and move us towards being able to build really significant actions and to re-emphasize the top 3 tips that were there previously. We've added 5% savers as building blocks so that you can then put them together to build a significant food-related action should you so wish. Next slide, please. So module 3 is the one that has changed the most, and there's 2 activities here. One's that quiz on the urgency of taking action, and the other is the postcards for the future. So the urgency of taking action has changed significantly. So anyone who's using our toolkit, please do read the trainer guide and go through these slides in detail. Next slide, please. So one is we've put in this slide to really try and promote critical thinking skills, and that's in response to the recent sort of resurgence of denialism. Second is a new question on current commitments. And third is pulling through, because it is all doom and gloom again, that all hope is not lost positive tipping points message from the first activity of the training. Next, please. Imagining a zero carbon world, the postcards from the future have been entirely rewritten to align with the UK 6th and 7th carbon budgets, because the original postcards were a little bit dated and starting to get a sort of a bifurcation of the future they were presenting and the policy trajectory that we're on. Next slide, please. So what we've now done is we've taken out the old wrap-up, which was a summary of the UK 6th carbon budget. We don't need that anymore. It's in the postcard text. And we've taken the opportunity to really strengthen that focus on emphasising the co-benefits in this activity. Next slide, please. From here on, we've got much, much smaller changes. So in module 4, there's one new slide in spheres of influence, just to highlight the relative importance of cutting our own footprints and doing something that pushes for systemic change. Next slide, please. In the role of a university, we have explicitly put in the fossil fuel scorecards from People and Planet to sort of push the divestment point. And again, the top 10 things a university can do was from a relatively old friend's.
Sorry, I think we lost Rachel.
Yeah, it looks like Rachel's dropped out, so maybe we can jump into the discussion on the MMU toolkits. I think that was the last, if not the second to last slide anyway. Hopefully, if we Rachel can come back in, then we can get her to cover the last couple of slides.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lydia. Rachel did message me actually and said that if she did drop out, she would make a video recording as well. That will be available. So that has happened. But yeah, thank you so much. And oh yeah, what's the last slide? Great, great, great. We hope you like it. Okay, so I am going to be joined now by Stuart and Amy, and we're going to hear about your uses of the toolkit. So let us start with a few questions. So this is for both of you actually, for Amy Bussett-Chester and Stuart Strathdee at Greenhead College. Nice to see you, and thank you both for joining us today. Just an opening question for both of you. What made you decide to start delivering carbon literacy either at your college or your university? And perhaps I'll go to Amy first.
Yeah, so the training actually started before I joined this team. So at the university, it started in 2020. And I believe it was partly because we got the budget to be able to deliver it, but also we had something called the climate action audit that we used to do as staff and students. But with it being COVID, we were looking at different avenues to be able to keep this low carbon culture message across the university during quite testing times in terms of adaptation. So there was an online version of the toolkit that we were able to deliver during that time, which meant that those messagings could still continue. And during that period, I actually did my training in 2021. And I was very blessed in being given the opportunity to then do the train the trainer training. So that's how I got into carbon literacy personally. And as somebody who comes from a humanities background rather than environmental, geography, the more scientific background, what I really liked about the toolkit was there is that focus on the scientific side, but it also brings the communication pieces, the social, the justice pieces, and how they actually bridge together. And that's really what flourished my interest in becoming a trainer as well.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy. Great to hear about your experience. How about yourself, Stuart?
So I personally completed carbon literacy training with the UK School Sustainability Network after we'd taken a group of 26 form students to the COP26 conference in Glasgow. And after doing that, I thought that carbon literacy was the ideal vehicle to raise awareness across college amongst, students and colleagues from all different disciplines about the scale and urgency of action that we needed to take. And it also, I felt it was a great way to tackle the feeling that amongst staff and students that they lacked agency to act.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. And a second question, I'll come to you first, Stuart, and then come to Amy. Both the University of Chester, you've recently delivered senior leadership training, including to the VC, I believe, and at Greenhead College, you've trained students, staff, and senior leaders. And I was wondering, how have you found using the toolkit to be beneficial when delivering to the varied audiences at your institutions?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Worked fantastically to engage sixth form students, support staff, teachers and senior leaders from across college. I've got colleagues from art and English through to STEM and geography who are all become passionate advocates of carbon literacy. I feel that the toolkit offers an accessible and easily followed framework for the vast majority of the topics that are covered. And it also provides very clear guidance for elements that you can modify for your local context and different audiences. I only have one day a week for my sustainability activities, so the toolkit's definitely helped me use my time more efficiently and increase the impact of this training I've provided.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stuart. And same question to you, Amy.
A lot of what Stuart has said, I echo in terms of it's really helped in being considerate of availability of our senior leadership in particular, making it a more compact toolkit that they're able to actually access, and therefore it's actually resulted in quite high intake as a result. So that's been really beneficial. And what we really appreciate from a senior leadership toolkit in particular is that pathway. The second one allows for them to delve more into the workplace influences, because it really focuses on the university context to identify their biggest impacts. And we had really good actions from across the board. But one in particular I'm really proud of is that we had a climate action of the month from one of our senior leaders as a result. And they identified an opportunity for all students who are doing placements as part of the international school to actively support the environment. So really looking at that scope of how they can make those impacts, not just within the university context, which is their first port of call, but actually can that ripple effects go beyond those boundaries of the university and go into local area, the national, and even the international.
Brilliant. Thank you both. Really inspiring answers, and great to hear how the toolkits have supported what you've been doing on a wider scale as well. I was just wondering, with the toolkits specifically, you've both been using the Manchester Met toolkits, and I was wondering how they've supported with the rollout of carbon literacy and, of course, the wider sustainability work happening at both of your institutions. Let's go to Amy first.
I think the best thing about the toolkit, and Rachel mentioned at the start, is that it's accessible for all as best as it can be, because at the university we have such a wide variety of backgrounds, and a lot of our students in particular, are only there for a few years and then they go and they move on to different places. So how do you kind of use that messaging and that empowerment that you get from carbon literacy to then bring it on into the wider world that they go into? And we've seen some really creative responses as a result from the toolkit, whether it be more simple ideas like a book swap within the university, or having a student creating a workshop on climate action within the professional scopes. There's different areas, different avenues that our students and our staff as well have been able to really pinpoint and realize that they do have the ability, and it's that collective piece. Even if it's an individual advocate at the start, it then brings people together and creates that domino effect. And that's because of the toolkit not just focusing on one element, but the broader element of what our low carbon culture should be.
Fantastic. Thank you, Amy. And same question to you, Stuart.
I think in the college context, a lack of time to develop new resources and a lack of confidence in their own knowledge are two big barriers for colleagues and students who are keen to promote sustainability. I think the clear structure of the toolkit and the detailed guides and slide notes really make it so much easier for everyone who's new to developing carbon literacy training. We mentioned that we'd recently done inset training for our senior leaders and heads of subjects, and then I had 5 colleagues and 3 students helped me deliver that training. And I think it's a reflection of the quality of the materials that I hardly had to spend any time explaining what was needed. They all took charge of different aspects of the training, and it worked really well.
That's brilliant to hear. And I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So one thing I want to know is, what are your future plans for carbon literacy? Let's start with you, Stuart.
So I'm just in the process of collating and sharing the pledges from our senior leaders and heads of subjects, and the plan is to cascade training to other staff, and we're also trying to work out how to extend carbon literacy training to much larger groups of students. So we've done 140 people so far, and I've got big ambitions to extend that.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Thank you, Stuart. And how about yourself, Amy?
Again, not too dissimilar to Stuart in terms of really encouraging other staff members to take leadership roles within the carbon literacy training as well. We have started looking at embedding carbon literacy within modules as well, and that's been successful, but there are still some hiccups to kind of iron out, which is always going to be the case when you start a new approach, and having those lecturers really advocate and support us in that delivery, so that we not only just providing those ad hoc opportunities, but also to allow students to think about it within their current learning structure and how they can bring forward through their teaching, I think is going to be key. So we're increasing those numbers, but also thinking about the model that we're following in terms of delivery.
That sounds really exciting. And the final, before I say this, actually, I just wanted to congratulate you both as well, because you've both recently become carbon literate educators. So congratulations, well done. My final question is around top tips. So if there's anybody here on the call who is new to delivering carbon literacy training or using a toolkit, getting started, would you have any quick top tips that you would share with them for that journey? Amy, I'll come to you first.
It's not to take the world on your own in terms of delivery, and really utilize the skills that other people have, the knowledge that other people have, because you don't want to be in a position where, say, if I left and then that momentum goes completely, you want that momentum to continue, and you want people to really stick with that empowered message that you get. So something that I, on my own reflection, need to do a bit more of, and I will be doing more of, is following up on those actions afterwards as well, and really checking in on people and giving them that support to be able to fulfill the actions that they put down.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Amy. And same question to you, Stuart.
I would say talk to the brilliant education team at the Carbon Literacy Project. They were very supportive when I started out. I was interested to hear what Rachel was saying. Don't lose the wood from the trees. Remember to focus on the key messages for each module. There's a lot of stuff there, but make sure you're very clear about what you're trying to get across. I would say encourage at least one of your initial trainees to help you the next time around, and share and celebrate the pledge fulfillment from your first trainees. So that's been really successful here. It's really helped me build a team of sustainability champions. And then the last thing is just do it. It's, I think perfect being the enemy of the good is a real thing in environmental stuff, and just get started and have a go.
I love that. Just do it. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you both very, very much. It was great to see you both today and to hear about your experiences. And thanks for giving up your time to join us. Really, really appreciate it. What we're going to do now is we are going to move on, and we're going to hear more about the Nottingham Trent University Toolkit updates. And to talk us through that, I'd like to welcome Mariana Poboreshkaya.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. So, yeah, hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Happy to share our toolkit, the updates that we recently have introduced to it. My presentation is less sophisticated. I hopefully still can convey some important messages about the changes we have introduced. But first, just for those of you who don't know, NTU Toolkit was originally developed by the Nottingham Business School in collaboration with the UN Prime. And the lead, kind of the inspiration and our driving force is Professor Petra Moulton-Hill. She is a Sustainable Management Education for Sustainable Development professor, who is based at our business school. I myself have joined the team a couple of years later, 4 years ago. So, and coming from the politics rather than business and management background was a very interesting introduction. And I think that's kind of reflects some of the inspirations behind the updates in our toolkit, that we have now a diverse team of the main facilitators. And we share our experience, we share our knowledge, and trying to see what kind of tweaks and improvements we can introduce in the toolkit by sharing our professional and personal journeys with the climate literacy. Something else to mention, so the toolkit obviously still follows the best practices of carbon literacy project. So we still have very strong foundation of the climate science, the kind of this basic knowledge, to make sure that nobody is missing the key information there. And if you don't mind, I want to reflect on one of the, I really like the question from Murtaza there in the chat. And I think it's a very important question. So what do you do when your audience actually is already quite knowledgeable? And how do you make sure that you still add value to their knowledge? And I think that's something we consider every time we deliver our toolkit. What is it we doing here? And do we have an awareness of our audience and how we add in value? So some of the part of our philosophy and approach is that we, in a way, we're teaching how to teach. So if you're a professor already of climate science, climate politics, and so on, so it is we give it the tools, the techniques, how to deliver climate knowledge in the accessible way. But also in our toolkit, we add a distinct international angle, the agenda, and also we maintain this kind of multi-system system thinking approach. Yeah, and just to mention something else here, that because that's our main kind of agenda to popularize the toolkit across the world, different continents, different geographical areas, we're trying to maintain that international angle to make it applicable as much as possible in different cultural and different geographical contexts, still maintaining the foundation of it and still make sure that it complies with the CLP criteria. So what the updates we have introduced over the last few years and now finalized it. So we have a more significant emphasis on the climate politics and climate justice. So in the sense that we introduced a strong kind of this variation across different types of emitters. So we introduced the concepts of the overall emissions per capita and what it means in reality. So this links very good with the climate vulnerability and the climate justice questions. So for instance, we have a few slides discussing the issues of what is fair and how the climate politics approach these complicated issues of who is more responsible for contribution to the global emissions. We also have some kind of basic information on the international climate regime. We leave in our kind of main and foundational toolkit, we just leave space for updates, and depending on our audience, we expand it, and also depending on what is happening with the recent COPs, we add or remove slides in this space. Another important update, we have the part of the NTU toolkit, those who use it very well familiar, we have quite a successful part of it where we work with the scenarios, troubled and positive future scenarios, the hands-on activity. And what we realized that we need to add some reflections on the emotions. So we have a psychologist who is in our team, and he shared his techniques, how to work with emotions, how to deal with the climate anxiety, and how to kind of prepare yourselves when you work with this could be seen as a quite traumatic discussions and topics of the potential devastating climate scenarios. We also expanded section on climate communication to reflect that, again, in countries that we are working with, there are still high levels of skepticism, of low levels of climate awareness. So how do you talk about climate change in complicated topic? How do you talk about it in complicated contexts? A few more updates to reflect the changes in our world. We added some topical issues. Some of them are more kind of straightforward and been there for a while. For instance, we have a relatively significant section, but still straightforward section on carbon sinks and regenerative agriculture. We also have a section on mega projects. So this major climate emitters that people often don't reflect on, like data centers or world cups, and they tend to be quite popular because people can connect with it. And another thing which is a new addition is a reflection on AI from both kind of positive and negative. It's a very controversial technology, but of course, as you're very well aware, AI has a huge carbon footprint, and we cannot ignore it when we talk about climate literacy. We extended the food section, and again, it linked with the multicultural context that we usually work with. So we have more explanation on the importance of the diet and also how it's connected with the settings, with the local national settings. And again, these places where we give people options to add local examples and to adapt it. Like our generic slide, it gives examples of Thanksgiving and Ramadan, but you can change it depending where you are. we still have the strong emphasis on multi-solving approach, still have strong emphasis on the system thinking, and of course, as the ethos of the carbon literacy project, a strong emphasis on solution. So rather than drive our attendance into this desperation, we always finish with the positive. And the last section of the training, it's about, of course, about the solutions and the core benefits and how it can be. How can you implement those actions in your community? Okay. Finished here.
Thank you so much, Mariana. That was fantastic and great to hear about all the amazing NTU updates as well. Wonderful. Thank you for taking the time to talk us through that today. So now we're going to have a discussion with somebody who's been instrumental in using the toolkit, the NTU toolkit. Please join me in welcoming Sigrun Wagner. Hi, Sigrun.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everyone.
All right, Sigrun, great to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. First question to you, similarly to what I asked Amy and Stuart. I know you were instrumental in starting the delivery of carbon literacy at the Royal Holloway University, and I'd love to know what made you decide to start delivering it.
So I think it was sort of a couple of things. I took the training first in 2020. I was supposed to do it in Winchester in person, but it was March 2020, so that didn't happen. So I took it in the summer, but wasn't able to do all of it. So I retook it in that was the online version with Petra, and then just for Winchester staff and students, and then took the global training then in November with a colleague from Drama, Theatre and Dance at Royal Holloway. And we found it so powerful, we wanted to offer it ourselves, particularly in light of the university having declared a climate emergency, both the students and the council. And I was involved in the new strategy in terms of the sustainability strategy of the university. And as a sustainability academic, on paper, I'm carbon literate, and I'd written a chapter on climate change in a textbook for business and environmental sustainability. But even I learned something new doing the training, and now every time I actually deliver it, I learn something new. So we really wanted to make that accessible to our staff and students.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And as a curiosity, Sigrun, how do you deliver carbon literacy at Royal Holloway University? Is it embedded into the curriculum or modules, or is it taught as a standalone course?
It's mostly a standalone course. I know there's some colleagues who are trying to embed it, but sort of at the university level, we offer it as a standalone course that both staff and students can do, and we believe in offering it together because we're all in this together in the climate crisis, and we all have a role to play. So we've got undergraduate students, master students, as well as professional services and academic staff taking it together. In the first few years, we offered it online over 4 weeks, 2 hours every week, same day, same time, twice a year, November and May, and November to coincide with COP mostly, and May to make use of the summer timetable. But the last couple of times we've actually offered it in person, and that's actually led to a higher proportion of participants submitting their certificates. That's been really powerful. And we're at the moment deliberating how to offer it in the future.
Fantastic. And when you're delivering it, what elements of the toolkit do you find that the learners enjoy the most or get the most from? And similarly for you, when you're facilitating, which do you find most beneficial to deliver?
It depends. Sometimes you get sort of that you deliver the course and one particular element really stands out for learners, and then in the next cohort it's another one. So thinking through, I think for me it's we've got a quiz, the Kahoot quiz, that gets sort of the competitive nature up, I think, for some. But then also the positive future scenario where we envisage a world where climate action is taken seriously, and how will the world look like if we meet that 1.5 degree target, and that really gets people fired up and and in a good mood, and really sort of end on a positive note. The other one, I think, where a lot of people get the insight is the BBC Food and Drinks Carbon Calculator, and comparing, what happens if you consume less beef, what happens if you replace beef with tofu, or eggs and tofu, or whatever. And then, of course, you get the usual quips about, oh, wine is more carbon friendly than coffee. Maybe I should switch to wine, or actually, tea is much better than coffee, and sort of the milk discussion as well. So you get sort of the fun element as well as the serious element in there.
Fantastic. And I was also wondering how using the toolkit has supported with the wider sustainability work happening at Royal Holloway University.
So it's definitely part of what we do, and it's part of the wider environmental strategy at the university. And we've now introduced a compulsory e-learning module in sustainability and climate change, the 2-hour module. And if you've done the carbon literacy training and you're certified, you're exempt from that module, so you don't have to do it. So that's definitely been supportive, and we're thinking about how can we align the two even better.
Fantastic. And just thinking about that and the future, what are your future plans for carbon literacy?
So we're wondering whether we complement this compulsory e-learning module with in-person training for those who want to go further than sort of this online thing, because I think it's really powerful to learn with others, whether that's online or in person, and that's where we get the dynamics, where you get the good ideas. Students have great ideas, and then we get the professional services staff to say, actually, this is how it might work, or how it might not work on campus with our operations, whether that's catering or residential services or the library. So we get really sort of the good ideas from all sides, and the practical support when we're all in the same room together.
Fantastic. And my final question to you, Sigrun, is for people who are new to carbon literacy and are thinking about picking up the NTU toolkit and starting, do you have any top tips for them?
I think my top tip would be to attend one of the global trainings that we offer as part of the UN Prime Working Group. So that's United Nations Principles for Responsible Management Education. We run them regularly. I think the next one is starting next week, and there's another one in April. So do that training, take part, help facilitate, and then just do it. I think that's the best bit of advice you can do. I know how nervous we were to start it. Gosh, I remember 5 years ago with, I think it was Chloe who was at the Carbon Literacy Project back then, and we were just really nervous. And then we just did it, and it was amazing. It was just really powerful. And we've just had a student come back who was in the arts, humanities and social sciences, and she took the training 5 years ago, and she changed her career plans as a result. She was a master's student. She's just come back, and she was asking about it, and we're really happy to confirm that it's still running. And she was really, 5 years on, she was still raving about how transformative it was for her.
Fantastic. I love to hear that, and I love the mantra of today is to just do it. Absolutely fantastic, and fantastic to have you here with us today, Sigrun. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and talk to us about your experience with the toolkit. It's fantastic to hear. I don't know how many more times I can say fantastic, but it really was fantastic to chat to you today. I am now going to hand over to Sojan, and Sojan is going to talk to us about the next steps and how we can access it before we go on to Q&A. Now, I do think that Rachel Dunk is back in the room. So after we've done this part, Sojan, we may be able to go back to Rachel's final slides before we hand over to Q&A, if that's okay with you. Perfect. Over to you, Sojan.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you so much to all our lovely speakers and our Toolkit authors for giving us a quick overview of what the updates are. So yeah, it's all good. So I'll be here to walk you through the next steps for carbon literacy, how can you access the updated materials, and any other questions as well. So, accessing the updated toolkits. Now, if you are already delivering carbon literacy training, if you already use one of the MMU or the NTU toolkits, you will receive the next steps via email following the webinar. So, hopefully in the next couple of weeks' time, you'll be able to access the updated materials and start delivering training with them soon as possible. But yeah, if you are new to carbon literacy training, it's the first time you're attending a webinar with us, you just come across about carbon literacy recently, the first steps would be slightly different. So first of all, you would need to attend a carbon literacy training yourself, get certified. And then you would also need to attend a 1.5 hour onboarding session with us called Delivering Successful Carbon Literacy Session. And right after that, we'll be happy to jump on a call and help you gain access to the toolkits, whichever you like. If it's MMU or the NTU toolkits, you can have a look yourself which materials would suit the best for your delivery style and for your institution, and then start delivering training with it. Now, in terms of adapting the further and higher education toolkits, I just wanted to mention this out because we've seen a lot more universities and colleges slowly starting to adapt the materials to make it more bespoke for their audience. There's 3 different scenarios you can do this. One is where you're adapting for a specific subject area. For example, if you've got students in the built environment sector, or students from the from the healthcare team, for example, and you would like to deliver a bit more bespoke sessions for them, you are more than welcome to see the toolkits, adapt it, and then go through a process of criteria checking with us, where you get the course accredited, and then that would be your own standalone course that you'd be able to deliver to those students or faculty. Now, you could also tailor the courses to your institution. So, for example, you could make it as bespoke as possible for your university or for your college, adding lots of case studies you do with the community projects you have, core benefits, so you can make it as relevant as possible to your own institution. Again, it would be a very similar process where you would adapt it using the toolkits as a base material, and then building on it and getting the course accredited through us, and then start delivering training with it. And last but not the least is where if you would be delivering training to an international audience. So, for example, if you've got study abroad students or staff, or you would like to deliver training to a bespoke university or an educator, we're more than happy for you to adapt those materials, include a lot more international content if it's specific to a nation, their own targets, make it bespoke for it, get the course accredited, and then start delivering training to that targeted audience. Again, if you have any questions around that, we'll be more than happy to support you and walk you through the process of how that would look like. So we've also got a drop-in session that's been, we planned for the 17th of February. So it's a Tuesday. Very similar timing from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and it's online as well. Now, again, if you wanted to discuss a bit more, anything around carbon literacy training, understand how to become an accredited carbon literate educator, or even if you have any questions around accessing the toolkits or just getting started, we'd be more than happy to help you. So we'll be there for this drop-in session. You can jump in anytime. We can have a quick chat, help you understand, if you have any doubts or questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you with that. Again, if you've got a mobile device, you can scan the QR code to sign up for the session, or else my colleague Lydia will be happy to post the links for the ticket tailor link so that you can sign up for the session. Again, last but not the least, thank you so much everyone for joining us. I think we are good on time. I'll quickly pass back to Rachel so that Rachel could cover the last couple of slides that you had missed. So Rachel, I shall pass back to you.
Thanks, Sojan. I'm not sure we even need the slides because we were onto the easy stuff by this stage. So in module 5, which I think is when I dropped out, we've basically added into the role of a university the student-led fossil fuel divestment campaign, and we've updated the top 10 things a university can do, because that was based on a relatively old report. So we've drawn on multiple sources to do that. Then in module 6, the only sort of really substantive changes to the action audit, which people who've been using our toolkit will be familiar with. It's just a series of questions to try and get the brain juices flowing, and largely for our students to explore the types of actions that they might be willing to do. We've added in a 5th action area here, which is social action. So that's sort of highlighting that theme that we've tried to strengthen from the start of the training, with the positive tipping points and the role that we all have to play in bringing about the more systemic changes sort of all the, it was there before, but we've really tried to sort of surface it a little bit more, and we've included that in the action audit. And that was it, really. I have to say it's been fantastic to hear from the people actually using the toolkits, both ours and NTU's. I mean, this is what it's all about, isn't it? People going and doing brilliant things. So thank you all ever so much for coming along and sharing your experiences today. So Joy.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to the Toolkit authors for joining us today and presenting all of the wonderful updates that you've done to the toolkits. Like we've said, those will now be going out over the next week or so to everybody. So everybody who's already signed up to use the toolkits should receive an email from us with a link to the toolkit and also instructions on how to use the toolkit, whether the course code has changed, etc. Thank you as well to all of our guest speakers who came along to talk about their experiences. It was brilliant, like Rachel mentioned, to hear about how the toolkits are being used and coming to life. So good to have input from both sides of the story. And yeah, thank you to everyone who's joined the session today. It's been brilliant to have you all here. Hopefully we managed to get through some of your questions, but if there's anything that's been left unanswered, then do just drop us an email at the fhe@carbonliteracy.com email address, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So thanks everyone for your time today. Thanks
everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Lydia. Thanks.